pay my respects to Lokwandu and all the other senior monks here, all the venerables, and with their permission, I'd like to give a short Dhamma talk, Dhamma Desana, and also pay my respects to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. There is a very unique, special knowledge of the Buddha. It was this knowledge that helped him become the Buddha. Without this understanding, without this comprehension, he would not have become the Sammasambuddha. This is the knowledge of asava. The adults know this. Asava. There's 3 asavas. Asava literally means something that flows, like water or a river. But the Buddha is talking about things that influence us, influxes. I think this word, asava, is very important for us today. To be careful of all these types of influences. So many influences. Influencing people is so important today, more than ever. People want to make that their career, their job, especially young people like you guys. Maybe you're thinking, I'll be an influencer. I'll be a content creator. Right? Being an influencer is so important. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, if you still use it, whatever. Influencing. Lord Buddha knew the power of influencers. At his time, in our time, the biggest influencer is not a very good influencer. Usually we call Mara. Have you heard this name, Mara? It's like the Buddhist boogeyman, like the Buddhist devil. But the most dangerous Mara, the most dangerous influence is the one that we have in our own minds. Influences determine what we think, what we say, and what we do. Right? You see some dance on TikTok, it influences you, then you get your friends, hey, let's get together, let's do that little dance. Let's set up the video. You hear a song, oh, that's a nice song. Maybe that new Cat's Eye song from the Gap commercial that influences you. So you go do it. Maybe your friend is wearing something new, has the new iPhone, or Samsung, whatever you like, whichever team you're on, Android or iPhone, and then you want it. So we're always being influenced. The Buddha said that the main influence, the first influence, is the influence of sensuality, kamasava. I'm going to use some Pali to keep the adults entertained, okay? I'll use the Pali for them. So kamasava is the influence of sensuality. That's what most of us are influenced by all the time. We're always thinking about nice things to see, nice things to hear, nice things to smell, right? Perfume, cologne, body spray, deodorant, incense, all these smells. Flavors, right? Boba tea, frappuccinos, whatever you like. All these nice things to touch, all these nice things to feel. So we're always looking for sensual influences, sensual pleasures, from the moment that we wake up until we go to sleep. When we wake up in the morning, usually we want to eat something or drink something. But we want something that's tasty, right? You don't want to wake up and just eat like plain bread or plain rice or something healthy, right? We want something savory, right? Maybe you want Fruit Loops or some other nice tasty cereal. Maybe you want Eggo waffles. Maybe you want an omelet. Yeah. Avocado toast. I don't know, whatever your thing is, right? If your parents just make you eat like oatmeal or kiribat, maybe you're not so happy in the morning. You want something tasty. And also drinking, right? In the morning, especially adults, they want their coffee or they want their milk tea, something like that. This is just an example of how, as soon as we wake up, we're already looking, right? We're already looking for something tasty, this sensual aspect, because we're so influenced. All these companies, right? The companies that sell breakfast cereals and bread and coffee, they advertise all the time to influence you. Regular coffee is not good enough. Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, right? That's what we want. We want the good stuff. We don't want the regular things. So we need to be aware of this. Influences have such a strong impact on our mind. Most of you dress, talk, and act according to your group of friends and your family around you. Right? You are a representation of the people who are around you. And if you look at other groups of people, you'll see the same thing. If you go to high school, you'll see all the like rock people, goth emos hang out together, all the nerdy geeks on one side, all the jocks, athletics on the other side, cheerleaders. And they all kind of look similar. They all kind of like do similar things. So we're all very influenced about the things around us. So much so that we're influenced by things that are not real. We deceive ourselves. We can be deceived by fake things, like fake friends. We're also influenced by fake friends and fake people. Most of the stuff you see on social media is fake. Yet you try to be like that. That's how strong it is. And if we were to have a conversation one-on-one about some influencer, you're smart. I think you would realize, oh yeah, they're doing that just for show, to make money, to get likes, for shares and comments. I know that. Even though you know that, you still want to be like them. You still want to do that. Even though you know they have a team of like 5 people doing makeup and hair on them, you compare yourself to them. Oh, I should be like that. Even though you don't have, a group of 5 people that are professionals, you still want to be like that. You're so influenced to be like them. And it goes so far that our mind even gets influenced by things that from the moment that we start paying attention to it, we know it's fake. Like a scary movie. You guys like scary movies? Zombie? No? Monsters? Vampires? Werewolves? Not the romantic ones like Twilight, actual scary movies, right? Something with that's it. So, let's say you watch a scary movie tonight. You go home, you take out your tablet on your phone. Instead of doom scrolling, you're like, oh, I'm gonna jump on Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, whatever. And you watch a scary movie. Then it finishes. How do you think you're gonna feel, or what do you think you're gonna be thinking for the rest of the night? Maybe even when you're asleep. What's gonna happen to you? You're gonna start like feeling scared maybe, you're gonna worry. You hear a noise, you get a little freaked out, you see like something in the shadows. You might have a nightmare and dream about the scary movie. If I were to ask you, do you think that would really happen? Do you think, I don't know, Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger or Michael Myers, all these slasher guys, are they real? You would say no, they're not real. But even then you're scared. Even though you know it's a fantasy, you're so influenced. So we become influenced so easily. And the Buddha knew this. That's why a big part of practicing Buddhism is to guard our senses, to guard our mind, to protect ourselves. In the same way that you close the windows and you close the doors so a lot of dirt and dust doesn't come in the same way that you lock your windows and lock your doors so strangers or animals don't come in, we need to do something similar with our eyes, in our ears, in our mouth, in our nose, in our body, in our mind. Because we know we can be influenced so easy. Right now you might be a little tired or hopefully not bored. But if we were to throw on Spotify, right, and we put your favorite playlist, your mood would completely change. Right now, maybe so bored, so tired, so hopeless. But just with that sound touching your ear, then you become influenced, and next thing you know, you're singing some Taylor Swift song. So, knowing this power, right? Knowing this power, what should we do? I think it's very important because, especially for young children in this generation, the one thing that's going to determine who they're going to be, how they're going to act, what they're going to buy, who they want to be around, is the phone. Everything on the phone is going to probably mold them and shape them in more ways than the family, the temple, maybe even the school. Because now kids nowadays have less and less friends, smaller groups of friends. There's studies on this. Before people would have a lot of friends, or they would talk to more of their cousins or family members. But now these groups are getting smaller. And the friends that they do have, maybe they're just online. Maybe their only friends are on Discord. Maybe their only friends are on when they do gaming online, like playing Battlefield or something like that, or Call of Duty. But in real life, their group of friends is very small. So who's the one that's influencing these children when it's not people? It's all these big companies. Meta, Google. Right? They're the ones who are teaching your children what's good, what's bad, what's cool, what's not, all these things. And I think it's good to teach the children the power of these devices. They can be used for good or bad. Right? There's nothing wrong with the phone. Having this technology in your pocket is an amazing thing. I wish I had it when I was going to school. It would make my life so much easier. I remember my teachers, when they were teaching me mathematics or even history, they would say, you have to learn this, because you won't have the books with you, or you won't have a calculator everywhere you go, etc. But that turned out to be a lie. It's not true. Right now you have all those things. So it's difficult to convince young people to actually learn or memorize and study these things, because I'll just ask AI, like ChatGPT, why should I learn these things? It's a lot easier. Let the computer do the work. So we can also be influenced not only to want things, we can also be influenced to be lazy. And that's kind of our default state. We actually most of our lives we spent trying not to do things. Right? We want to do things with the least amount of energy possible. Your parents tell you to clean your room, what do? Just throw stuff under the bed, throw some things in the closet, maybe just wipe some things where they can see on the surface. You don't really clean it that good. Just good enough, not to get in trouble. Study? I'll study enough, just not to get in trouble. Exercise, when you have your physical education class, just enough to pass. I'll just run enough, play enough basketball. But now with the technology that we have, we're becoming even more and more lazy. So we're influenced to want things, to change our behaviors, and to become lazy. And probably most dangerously now, we're influenced to hate. So much hate online. Any of you who spend time online and you read the comments, you go through all the comments, most of them are negative. So many haters out there on those comments. People are being mean. So mean to each other. Especially to young girls. Criticizing their looks. Criticizing what they wear. So critical of young ladies out there. It's so unfair. We're influenced to hate other people who look different. Other religions, other countries. Sometimes it's even petty things, right? Xbox versus PlayStation, Android versus iPhone. Very petty, East Coast, West Coast, all the time. We're influenced to see people as different, as other, not to like them because they're not like me. We could even do this with Buddhism too, right? Other types of Buddhists, they're not the same type as me. And even if they are the same type, they're not from my country. And even if they are, they're not from my city. We can do it all the time. And these kind of online is one way that we see a lot of hate, a lot of anger, a lot of jealousy and resentment online. So these are the ways that we're influenced by all these things around us, and we need to be careful. One of the main ways that the Buddha taught us to protect ourselves from all these influences, from all these asavas, is through practicing mindfulness. You guys know what mindfulness is, right? Have you guys done it at school? I remember during the pandemic, I went to go visit my sister, and my nephew was like doing a mindfulness meditation in class during the pandemic online. It's very interesting, like 2020. I was surprised to see mindfulness in school. Because nowadays, it's become obvious, even to non-Buddhists, and there's a lot of evidence and peer-reviewed studies about the powers of mindfulness meditation. How it helps reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression, how it helps shut down the default mode network, which has to do with negative thinking all the time, rumination, negative rumination. You know what negative rumination is? It's that voice inside of you that keeps saying all those nasty things to yourself. I'm not good enough, I'm not strong enough, I'm not pretty enough. All those negative kind of thinkings, that critical, over and over and over again, beating yourself up, comparing yourself to others. That's the negative rumination. And even to become more productive, in Silicon Valley, they found out the power of the Buddha and the mindfulness teaching that he taught us. You know, it's been over like 20 years now that they've been teaching mindfulness at Google. They've been teaching mindfulness at Apple, and they've been teaching mindfulness all over in all these tech companies in Silicon Valley. Because it makes the workers more productive. It makes the workers happier. But you see, the Buddha already knew this. And he taught us this. Both for our well-being, for our benefit, to be more productive or healthier, and also to eliminate all these unwholesome things, because we can protect our minds. We can protect our minds through the power of mindfulness. We can protect our minds from all the influences, from all the asavas, if we're aware. But most of the time, we're not aware. We're on zombie mode. We're just going through the motions. That is what brain rot is really about, right? You're not even watching anything on your phone. You're on TikTok, and you're just scrolling. If I were to stop you during that scrolling and told you, 3 reels ago, what was on there? You wouldn't know. You wouldn't be able to tell me. How do I know this? Because they've done studies on young people. And they've had them go through this, and then they don't even remember what they watched a minute ago or a few seconds ago. Because they're just going like this. Just wasting time. Next thing you know, 30 minutes, maybe an hour if your parents haven't caught you in bed at night with your phone. So mindfulness is this beautiful, amazing tool that there's so much evidence for, and it's everywhere in our life. I was in the Air Force. They were even teaching mindfulness in the military. Mindfulness is in your schools, mindfulness is in the military, mindfulness is in Silicon Valley, mindfulness is in the Fortune 500 companies, everywhere. This great power to protect our mind is out there in the world now. Some of it has been used for obviously personal gain. Everything gets manipulated, so even the teachings of the Buddha have gotten manipulated to some degree. But we ourselves as Buddhists can be more careful. We have the context. We have the Eightfold Path, not only Sammasati, but we have Sammaditthi, Sammasankappa, Sammavacha, Sammakamanta, Sammajiva, Sammavayama, Sammasati, and Sammasamadhi. Right? The whole Eightfold Path. So for us, if we practice mindfulness, we're a little bit safer not to misuse it. But mindfulness is powerful. There's no doubt about it. The power of mindfulness. So if you want to protect yourself from being easily influenced or influenced in the wrong way, if you want to protect yourself from just all this critical or negative thinking, then mindfulness is something that's good for you. One of the biggest problems for students for young people, teenagers, and especially young girls, is anxiety. So much anxiety. And time after time, mindfulness is shown to help reduce the symptoms of anxiety. So if you feel anxiety about for me, it was always the first day of school, I would feel so much anxiety. What am I gonna wear? I always I felt like I was out of the loop. Maybe I missed something about in the fashion world, and I was gonna show up dressed wrong, and all my friends were gonna be dressed, or maybe they had something that I didn't have. Oh, another part is when you're in school and everyone has to introduce themselves the first couple days. So much anxiety there. Or maybe you have to do public speaking, give a presentation. Yeah. Or you have to be in a group and work with others. That's more anxiety. Or your parents pressuring you to do good on the exam. That's a lot of anxiety, especially once you become a junior and a senior for SATs and all of that. So much anxiety. Then signing up for college, more anxiety. All this anxiety, all the time. So the teachings of the Buddha, Samasati, mindfulness, can help you with your anxiety. And so the Buddha knew so much about the world. He knew so much about the problems during that time, 2,500 years ago. And now, to this day, many of the things that people were suffering from at that time, we're still suffering to this day. Humanity is very slow to learn. We think we've changed a lot, but actually the human condition's the same. Very little about our humanity has changed. We just have, better technology to do whatever we used to do in the past. Before, in order to kill a lot of people, you had to get a stick, a sword, and a rock. It would take a long time. You have a lot of work, like Genghis Khan. Now it's very easy. One person, right? What happened at that Catholic church a few days ago? One person with a weapon can take out so many people. That anger, that violence, that cruelty that we see now was there during the time of the Buddha. The human condition is the same. Kids in those days were easily influenced too. There's nothing special about teenagers today. Teenagers were the same during the time of the Buddha. When you read the suttas, it says, especially the boys, because the girls they wouldn't really let out, but the boys would go into the forest and party, and they would play instruments, and they would drink. Right? That's why the Buddha said, Sura Mereya, don't do drugs. Because the young boys were sneaking out of the house and going to raves in the forest during the time of the Buddha. They were doing that. Nothing different. So many wars during the time of the Buddha. Right? There was even serial killers. We think, serial killers is something very modern. No, we had Angulimala. He was a serial killer too. Right? Same thing. So whatever the Buddha taught at that time, it's still applicable to us. Sometimes we might think, Buddhism, that's old-fashioned thinking. That's okay for people, living in Asia, whatever. But I'm in America now. I'm in Canada. I'm in Australia. I'm in Europe now. And this is the year 2025. Do the teachings of the Buddha still apply to me? Yes, they still apply. And I think especially when it comes to this thing about influences, we're actually in a more dangerous situation now. Because you can't escape the influences. It's everywhere all the time. Marketing, right? Commercials, propaganda. Especially nowadays online, so much propaganda, political propaganda, everywhere. So we need to protect ourselves by being mindful. The Buddha said from the moment that you wake up until you go to sleep, you're mindful. The Buddha said when eating, when chewing, when drinking, even when going to the toilet, you should be mindful all the time. All the time protecting your mind. He also gave another teaching about mindfulness that has to do with the influences. Because it said that we get influenced through our eyes, nose, ear, mouth, and body. It's called Indriya Samvara. Right? The adults know what this means. Indriya means your senses, and Samvara means to protect or to restrain. If something's bothering you, if you don't like something, if you know something's not good for you, then don't pay attention to it. If someone's criticizing you, if someone's bullying you, don't pay attention to them. If you listen to them, you're just gonna either get angrier and angrier, or just feel worse and worse and sadder. But we pay attention to them. We let ourselves be taken away by all these things. Especially on our phones too. You see something that you don't like. Actually, on the way here, there was a car accident. All of a sudden. And all the cars were slowing down. And maybe the people in front of us put on the emergency hazard lights. And we get near the accident, guess what? It was on the other side of the freeway. Why is everyone stopping on this side? Why is everyone stopping? Nosy, right? Nosy people wanting to get into everyone's business. They're influenced by something that's not good. Which one of you would want to see someone hurt on the other side? Would you want to see like a dead body? Someone that completely hurt from a car crash full of blood? Is that something that would make your day happy? Would you feel good? No. I don't think anyone has that kind of distorted thinking. But even though we don't have it, every time there's an accident on the freeway, what do we all do? We want to look. We don't know how to protect our eyes. We don't have Indriya Samvara. We want to go towards the ugly thing. We want to go towards the thing that disturbs us. We want to see the cruelty. We want to see the sadness. Because we don't have any restraint. A person who's mindful, they'll focus on what they're doing driving. This is my side of the road. This is my lane. Here's where I'm going. That other side of the road has nothing to do with me. But we go towards things that are not nice. That's what we do online. A lot of the things that we look at are things that we know are not right, that are not good, but yet we do it. Adults all the time, right? All this negative news, and you're watching it all the time. They're criticizing, calling each other names, and there you are, loving it, right? No control. And then you finish watching, you get upset, and you tell your wife or husband about it, right? Oh, you see what they're doing, and you're all upset, and it's like, why did you watch it? And the next day you watch it again to get angry again. It's like watching scary movies every night. Most of the time for young kids, if they watch a scary movie, for some time they won't watch it again. And then they kind of forget and they'll watch it maybe a few weeks or months later. But especially for adults, because they say it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. Right? They're kind of a little stuck in their ways and they keep looking and paying attention to the things that they shouldn't be paying attention to, even though they know. If I would ask them, they know, oh, Andrew, I know that's not right, but I'm working on it. It's difficult for me to stop. That's how powerful the influences are. That's how difficult it is to use our mindfulness and to practice Indriya Samvara to protect our senses. So I think knowing this, right? Knowing how difficult this is so important that we teach these skills to the children. And that's why I think it's such a beautiful thing that you're learning this at school if you actually practice. Some people like mindfulness, just whatever, I'll just daydream. I'm not going to practice mindfulness at school. I know sometimes my nephew, instead of doing it, he would just be doing something else. Like, they don't know, right? You turn off the camera on Zoom, the teacher doesn't know what you're doing. But if you actually engage with it and you try to learn it, it's a powerful skill that can protect you. It's a skill not only that the teacher says that it's good for you, the science says that's good for you, but it's a skill that the Buddha said is good for you. It's a skill that helped the Buddha become the Buddha. Do you know what was the direct practice that the Buddha used to become the Sammasambuddha? Do you know what he practiced under the Bodhi tree? I know the adults know. Do any of the young kids, know? What was it? You're saying yes. Can you share with us, please? Do you know? What was he doing under the Bodhi tree? Was he reading a book? Was he studying for an exam? No. Was he doing a puja, for a Bodhi tree puja under the Bodhi tree? What was he doing? Meditating. What type of meditation? Huh? It's the one I've been sharing with you. What have I been sharing with you? Starts with an M. Yes? Mindfulness meditation, yes. He's practicing mindfulness meditation. Anapanasati. You know Anapana, right? Anapana, sati, awareness of the breath, in and out. By bringing his attention to the breath. You can tell a lot about yourself by paying attention to your breath. When you're scared, how do you breathe? Imagine if you're really scared, like if you were to walk outside and like some animal pops out. How would you start breathing? Do you know? How about if someone were to push you and get you angry? How would you start breathing? However we feel, whatever we're thinking affects our breathing. If we want to know what's going on with us, one way that we can tell is by paying attention to our breath. Even when we're excited, right? Let's go to California Adventure, Disneyland. Let's go to Six Flags. Let's go to the movies, let's go to the IMAX. Let's go to Target and get you something. Let's go to the drive-thru at Starbucks and get you a Frappuccino. If you pay attention, you'll see that you get excited and your breathing changes. So whether we're excited out of joyfulness, whether we're excited out of sadness or anger, you'll notice differences in your breath. That's why the Buddha tells us then, not only to be mindful of the breathing, but to be mindful whether it's long or short. And to be mindful of the entire breath. That means your entire body too. And once you start paying attention to your breath, once you're completely mindful of what's happening, whether it's in your body, feelings, mind, or thoughts, that's the Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, Dhamma, Vipassanas, then you're able to see what's happening. And when you see what's happening, you're not being influenced by what's happening outside of you. And when you're no longer being influenced what's happening outside of you, you return to the natural state, which is calm. Your natural state is to be calm, to be relaxed, to be tranquil. That's the natural state. If left to your own devices, you'll be calm. But if you take out your devices, it's very difficult to be calm. So it's better to be left to our own devices. Put our attention inside, focus on the breath, and you'll see the changes. Not only in your breathing, but your heart also changes. You know what else happens? If you're really scared, or if you're really angry, your stomach changes. It feels like it's crushing in. It's part of the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system response. Right? When you're scared or when you're excited or when you're angry, your body reroutes energy, reroutes blood flow to those things that are going to help you survive. Right? So it sends most of the blood flow to your legs, to your big muscles for you to be able to move fast in case something happens. And by doing that, what happens? It takes away energy from the digestive system. You can notice that by practicing in and out breathing. These are just some examples of all the things you can notice. Practicing mindfulness can become like a biofeedback kind of tool that we can use to become aware of how we feel. Because our attention is always going outside. Our attention is always outside. Very few times our attention is inside. Our attention usually only goes inside when something's wrong. Like when you get sick, when you have the flu, or if you caught COVID, you are so focused on the inside, right? I can't breathe, you're sweating, you don't feel good, no energy. All your attention was inside. You notice so many things, even the smallest inconvenience you notice when you're sick, when you're tired. But as soon as you get healthy, what happens? You forget all about your body and you just start looking outside. You forget what's going on. When you're having a lot of mental distress, or maybe a mental disorder, mental illness, you're very aware of all the negative thinking, of all the negative mood, of all the negative feelings and sensations. But once you feel good again, what happens? You no longer look inside. We're like most people when they drive their cars. Most people don't know what type of engine they have. They don't know what type of oil their car uses. They don't know so many things about the actual things that make the car work. The only time they know what's going on with the car is when something bad happens. That's the only time they pay attention to the car. We're like that too. We don't pay attention to our mind and our body. Only when something wrong happens at the last minute, when we don't have any other choice, we pay attention. But if we're always practicing mindfulness, we can become aware when we're getting distracted, when we're feeling lazy, when we're worrying, when we're becoming anxious, when we're becoming violent or cruel or resentful or jealous. Because for a lot of us, we're not really aware. I think this has happened to you because it used to happen to me so much. I would say things, and then after like a few minutes or maybe the next day, I would realize, yeah, that probably wasn't the best thing to say, you know? That wasn't the best thing to say. And I think, you know, I said that because I guess I was angry. I was a little angry, I was a little upset. But in the moment, I didn't know. Because I wasn't mindful. I didn't have mindfulness. I didn't have sati. I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware of how I was feeling, so it came out of my mouth. It flew out of my mouth, right? Like it flowed out of my mouth. To think about this word asava, right? Flowing. Flows in, flows out. The bad contaminations, the kilesas, whatever we want to call them, they flow from the outside in, but then our bad actions, right? Our akusala kama, our bad actions, flow from the inside out. So if we want to protect ourselves from not only having bad influences come in, but having bad things flow out of our mouth and our body that get us in trouble and cause bad karma, we need to be mindful. We need to pay attention. A lot of attention. Inside to ourselves. This practice of mindfulness, this practice of paying attention is so important. It's like having a healthy diet or having an exercise routine, taking care of yourself. We need to do this for ourselves. I have some questions for you guys. Did you take a shower today? Yes? Most of you. It was a hot day, right? Most of you took a shower? Good. Did you brush your teeth today? I hope so. No? Well, you still have a chance. Hopefully you brush it before you go to bed. You brush your teeth, right? Are you wearing clean clothes today? Yeah. So you have clean clothes and you wash your body and you brush your teeth. So all these things are clean, right? How about your mind? When is the last time that you cleaned your mind? When is the last time that you washed your mind? When have you done that? When have you sat down and took your time? You know what? It's a mess in there. I need to reorganize. Probably never. Probably never. That's part of the problem. It's like I said earlier again, having all the windows open, having all the doors open. You clean the outside, so when the people drive by, when people walk by, it looks very nice. Maybe you paint it every couple of years. And then you go inside of the house, like your room's kids, and it's a mess. It's a mess in the room, because you never took care of it. The Buddha is the one who taught us how to take care of our inside. Take care of the inside. Pay attention to the inside. Bring your attention to the inside instead of the things out there that are trying to tempt you and get you to do all these bad influences. This is the practice of satipatthana. Right? Sati upatthana. Right? Sati mindfulness. The upa is like close or near. Thana is the place. What are we doing with our mindfulness? We're keeping it here, keeping it close on us, instead of on the phone or the TV or the radio or smells in the air. You can smell the delicious Asian food from the restaurants out there. Have you noticed that? It's like very good food. But we should have most of our attention inside. This will protect us. This will guard our senses from all the influences. But we don't do this. So the Buddha is the one who taught us how to take care of our mind, how to clean our mind. We talk about mental health. We talk about good hygiene, personal hygiene. There's also mental hygiene or spiritual hygiene, taking care of the inside. We need to make time for that, to take care of yourself, to care for yourself. That's very important. That's what this whole practice is about. But in order to do that, you also need to, in order to take care of yourself, you need to care for yourself. And one thing that I've noticed is that young people, many young people nowadays struggle with like positive self-image. They're very critical of themselves, especially once they become teenagers. And when they're in college too, university, very critical about themselves, beating themselves up. A lot has to do with comparing themselves to other people, right? But sometimes it comes at home from parents comparing them to their cousins. Oh, your cousin got into this university and you didn't. Your cousin got these good grades and you didn't, right? These kind of things. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago in Dhamma school, one of the kids came in the room, first one to show up, and this kid said, "Oh, Bante, I'm getting so stupid." What? What do you mean? The kid was like, "Yeah, I'm getting so dumb. I'm getting so stupid. I used to be smarter in the past." And she was talking very negative about herself. Very negative. She just became a teenager too. She's 13 years old. I said, "Why do you think that?" "Well, I can't remember this. I'm not doing so good in that." And I said, "Okay, so maybe your memory is not as good as it was before. That doesn't mean that you're stupid. Maybe you're not meeting the goals that you want to meet. There's room for improvement, but that doesn't mean you're stupid." And I told her, you don't have to think negative about yourself. You don't have to beat yourself up. You don't have to use this strong word to beat yourself up. By the end of the Dhamma school, she was very happy. We had a good time. We did some activities. We played some games. We learned a little bit about Dhamma. I get all the kids in a circle, have them talk about what's going on in their lives. And she changed. She had a different perspective now. When I asked her how she felt, she said, "I feel good now." And I said, "Yeah, try to avoid using that word. That's not a good word. You can acknowledge the things that you want to work on, like your memory and getting good grades. That's fine. But don't use that strong word, like I'm ugly or whatever, to beat yourself up. That's not a good thing to say to yourself." But through this practice, through doing what the Buddha taught us, we can learn to overcome that. We can learn to come out of it. You guys are very lucky because you have this at a young age. I didn't have these tools until I was already an adult, so I had to do more work to kind of get myself out of this mess. Imagine putting things into this room, okay, for 26 years. Right? You just keep stuffing things in here for 26 years. How long is it going to take you to take everything out? Probably the same amount of time that you took to put everything back in. Probably another 26 years. But you're very fortunate. You're maybe 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, 20 this age. It's a little less work. And you can even do better by not even letting those things come in. That's the whole point of the practice of mindfulness and being aware of our senses. Protecting ourselves from all these asavas, influences, that are coming in and coming out, causing us all these problems. I'd like to leave a little pause for reflection. So today I really mostly wanted to focus on this theme that I shared with you. And for me, the most important thing about giving Dhamma talks or teaching Dhamma school or having seal days when we practice 8 precepts or even Vesak Katina ceremony and days like today is that I get to encounter you and I get to talk to you and I get to see you and I get to hear from you. That to me is the best thing. So I always, last time I didn't have this chance and I guess I got too caught up in what I wanted to share and I didn't leave too much time for this. But I feel that, for me, the Dhamma discussion works better for me than Dhamma talk. Dhamma talk is me here, just sharing what I know, giving advice. But I don't know if you're listening. I don't know if you care. I don't even know if what I said matters to you. Maybe I'm just talking, maybe you all have very good mindfulness. Maybe you guys don't get influenced by what's online. And I'm just talking about something that's not important to you, that doesn't affect you in your life. But Dhamma discussion. Dhamma discussion means we go back and forth. Right? We get to share about what's going on in our life, what's important. And you also get to ask questions about, if you didn't understand anything that I said. And I know what always happens. Everyone's quiet in the beginning. No one wants to say anything. No one wants to ask a question. I think one, because you're not used to it, right? You're not used to like asking questions during the Dhamma talk. Maybe you're shy, like, oh, should I ask the monk or not? But guess what? There's something very interesting. Your parents, you know what your parents tell me? Your parents say, oh, they want to know why do we do the Bodhi Puja? Oh, they want to know what are the 28 Buddhas? Oh, they want to know why we have to wear all white. Oh, they want to know why do we have to feed the monks? Why can't the monks make their own food? All these things. You have questions, I know you do, because your parents tell me. And sometimes they say that you're very critical about, Buddhism, and you tell them. So now's your chance. Now's your chance, All those things all those questions you have for your parents, maybe these things that you don't understand, or things that bother you about, the Buddhism or the temple or the monks, whatever. This is your chance to ask from someone who wants to answer it. Because maybe some monks don't want to answer, they feel uncomfortable. I'm very comfortable, I'm not a traditional monk. I didn't grow up in a traditional environment, I grew up very similar to you. My life growing up is very similar to you. I grew up here in Southern California, right? I like all the things that most of you guys like fast food and, all these sweet things, and I love sports and American culture, all these things that you like. And once I became a teenager, the internet really took off, so I was online most of the time, closing myself in my room. My parents would come. They would get really angry because at that time, we didn't have 2 lines at my house, so when I was on the internet, they couldn't receive any calls. So I was just hogging up all the bandwidth, hogging up the line. And they would kick me off, but once they would go to sleep, I'd go back on the computer and be on the computer all night, playing video games, I like playing video games too when I was a kid. Doing all these things, getting in trouble, that was fun, Maybe I shouldn't have done it so much, but, that's something that you learn through experience. But yeah, that's all just to share with you to kind of make you feel a little bit safer and more comfortable in asking questions. And I want to know what's going on for you, because for me, one of the most important things is to make Buddhism accessible to you. I don't want Buddhism to be something that's just in a book or something that you do, on Saturday nights. I want you to live according to the Dhamma. I want you to carry the Dhamma. The Sinhalese people, they're the ones who have preserved the teachings of the Buddha for thousands of years. You know that? Your ancestors, your family. For thousands of years, since the time of Emperor Ashoka to now. Because Buddhism disappeared from India. Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, all these places used to be Buddhist. Gone. And now we have other places that became Buddhist, like Myanmar and Thailand and Cambodia. Do you know where they got their Buddhism from? From Sri Lanka. You know where I got my Buddhism from? Sri Lanka too, From your community, right? You have this beautiful tradition, thousands of years old, that I'm very new to and I'm learning all the time. But to me, it's very important to support the young generation because this is your inheritance, the Dhamma, Buddhism, and I don't want it to get lost here. They've done studies with American Buddhists, and then I'll give you your chance to ask questions. The first American Buddhists were the Chinese, who came here to work on the railroad and mining gold. Around the same time, there was Japanese who went to Hawaii doing cane field work, right? Making sugar. Unfortunately for the Chinese and the mainland, especially here in California, they experienced a lot of persecution and racism, and they didn't let any Chinese women come, only men. So then, since there was no women, right, then all the men died, there's no more Chinese. So all the Chinese Buddhist temples disappeared. They actually burned down one, near San Francisco, they burned down a whole Chinese community and the temple to the ground. They destroyed, Buddhism there. But in Hawaii, that didn't happen. So for about 150 years, Japanese people have been practicing Buddhism in Hawaii, and they came to California too. And during World War II, they faced a lot of limitations, right? Because America was at war with Japan. So they did a study, how long does it take for Japanese Buddhists to stop practicing Buddhism? 3 generations. 3 generations. In 3 generations, many, if not most, Japanese Buddhists stop practicing Buddhism. They even don't know Japanese anymore. So they lose Buddhism, they lose Japanese, they lose their language. Right? So maybe not you, but your kids, right? Your kids might not practice Buddhism or even speak Sinhala. The Japanese at that time didn't know that. But now we have the data, we know that. So let's not have that happen, right? Let's not have that happen. Especially for, the longest lasting tradition of Buddhism, which is Sri Lanka. There's no other country in the world that's had Buddhism that long. If it were to happen in the Sri Lankan community, it would be like the biggest tragedy. Buddhism, next to losing the Buddhism in India. That was the main one. Then number 2 would be this. Right? So I want you to know about your culture, about your heritage, how important it is for you to practice Dhamma. You don't have to be perfect. No one's perfect. I'm not perfect, But it's important to know about these things. So in the spirit of that, to know about things, if you have a question, any comments, any clarification, now is the time for you to make those questions. Even adults, if you want to ask something, adults can also ask. Who's going to get it started? We need that brave person. If you have anxiety, use mindfulness, like I said.
Well, what do we wear to the temple?
Very great practical question. So, if we look back to the suttas, the early teachings of the Buddha, since that time people have been wearing white. So, wearing white for spiritual events was something that was already there over 2,500 years ago in India. And the Buddha incorporated that, right? He supported that. And it says many lay people who were practicing 5, 8 precepts and more, they would also wear white, especially on special days like today, right? In those days, it was mostly had to do with the 4 phases on the moon, right? Like no moon, the 4 quarters of the moon, right? Like no moon, first quarter of the moon, the full moon, the moon kind of, and then disappearing, like 75% gone. So on these spiritual days, people will wear white. But all over the world, white has always had a sense of purity, right? Like purity being very pure. So that's why you wear white. And white is a happier color. One thing this is my own personal thing, so you don't have to pay attention, but funerals here in America, more and more Buddhists are wearing black. Black is such a sad color. It's boring. It's like something you go to the business office to do, right? Like you wear black to do work. Yeah, please wear white for like all the ceremonies, especially funerals. Funerals already sad. Don't make it sadder, Wear white. It's very beautiful. It's very clean. It's very fresh, right? Especially if you are in a hot country like Sri Lanka, white is nicer than wearing black. Black absorbs more sun rays and it keeps the heat. So there's practical reasons. But if we look at what the Buddha taught, people were already doing that, and the Buddha thought it was a good idea. So he kept that tradition of wearing white. Good practical question.
Why do monks wear orange?
Oh, good question. This is also, it's going to be a similar answer. It's very interesting. I think the Buddha was a very great, pragmatist. Very, very pragmatic with the teachings and with organizing Buddhism. So during the time of the Buddha, other religious people, especially the Sramanas, were already wearing orange. And the Buddha kind of took that on. But the Buddha made some special modifications. One of those modifications was the size that you can wear of the robe. Another one was how many you can have. Another one was the way it's sewed. So if you pay close attention to the monks' robes, you see these lines, right? All these lines. It's supposed to look like a paddy field, right? Like a rice field. So these are the types of modifications that the Buddha did to the robe, but that robe was already there. I think for a long time, like orangey colors, right? Like different shades of orange and yellow, was something seen as spiritual. That kind of idea was already there. I heard some scholars say that because saffron was so expensive too, like saffron, that orange color was seen as so beautiful, so luxurious that it kind of gave the monks like that very kind of nice, beautiful look too, aesthetic to them. But from my understanding, it was also very pragmatic, like lay people wearing white. Yeah, yeah. I love that about the Buddha. Like so down to earth, so pragmatic, willing to adapt to what's going on. He took a lot. You know the 5 precepts? You know, Panchasila? That was already there during the time of the Buddha. The Buddha didn't invent 5 precepts. It already existed. The precepts were already there before him. Here's one example. Do you know one of the things that Queen Mahamaya did when she found out that she was pregnant? What did she do? She took the precepts. She couldn't have learned it from the Buddha because he wasn't born. She already took the precepts, right? And when the Buddha talks with other people from other religions, he says, other people teach not to kill. I also teach not to kill. Other people teach not to steal. I also teach not to steal, right? He goes, my teachings are also in line with the wise people, right? What I teach doesn't go against the wise. I also teach what the wise teach, right? Some people wore white. He wears white. Monks at that time wearing orange. He wears orange. People following 5 precepts. Anything that's good, he takes, right? Very pragmatic. We don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. If something works, it's okay. We can adapt it. But those are, what do you call it? Let's say lokia. Do you know this word, lokia? Means of the world, mundane, kind of like normal. Those have to do with like the lokia dhamma, right? Like conventional things. The Buddha used any lokia dhamma to help you get to the lokutara. You know lokutara? Means more than the world, right? So that is actually what real Buddhism is. Real Buddhism is the lokutara, the teachings beyond conventional world, beyond the mundane world, beyond things that we do. Because if you go to different Buddhist countries, everyone does puja different, right? Is anyone wrong? No, I don't think anyone's wrong. It's just a different way of doing it. That's the worldly understanding of doing the ceremony, of how to dress. Monks in different countries dress different too. But the real Dhamma is the Lokutara, like Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, right? Panchakanda, Paticca like that is the real unique teaching of the Buddha that no one in the world knew. Something that he, for himself, discovered. But when it comes to other things, Buddha was very pragmatic. It's one of the things I love about him, his simplicity of the Buddha. Anyone else? Any other questions? Comments? Yes?
Why do we wear the traditional?
Oh, this. Okay, yeah. Well, I don't have one anymore. The monks usually don't wear them. So this is an interesting tradition, also from India. It's newer. It didn't, from what I understand, I haven't seen it anywhere in the suttas or in early Buddhism. It's a tradition that evolved later, but it's a way for us to reflect. So the Buddha did talk a lot about the importance of reflecting or contemplation. He called it anusati. Do you know this word anusati? There's like Buddha nusati, Dhamma nusati, Sangha nusati, Metta nusati, Sila nusati, Deva nusati, Jaga nusati, like so many nusatis, Mara nusati, all these reflections, right? But are we very good at remembering what we have to do? No, right? Like some of us put post-it notes on the refrigerator, or we put it in our phone, a little app to say what we need to do. We put an alarm on your schedule. So by having this, right? By having this, you can reflect on the Buddhism. You can reflect on the Dhamma. You can reflect on the teachings. Because usually you get it when you come to the temple. We do chanting for you, right? We give you blessings and then you take it with you. So everywhere you go, you can think, oh, I have these blessings. I have this teaching with me everywhere that I go. That's the way I used my nula when I went to Afghanistan in 2014. Because I was in the military before I became a monk. And I had a very nice one, the rainbow one, like the flag, like the Buddhist flag one. Yeah. And I had it out there for 7 months before it ripped, because it's also anicca, right? It's impermanent. Every time that I saw it, I remembered the teachings of the Buddha. Right? Sometimes I would just be doing something else, and I would see it, and I was like, oh, there it is. It's a reminder. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but in the past, people used to put like a rubber band to kind of like remind them of things. If they were, I need to do this, so I'll put a rubber band. So that way I know I have to do this thing. It's kind of like that, right? It's something for you to be aware of the teachings. And that remembering is the blessing. There's no higher blessing than the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the highest blessing. I can give you a blessing, but it's not as great as the Dhamma. The Dhamma is the highest blessing you can get. So, according to my understanding, we get these as a way to remind ourselves to keep the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha in our minds and in our hearts. It also makes us feel nice, right? It makes us feel very nice. Yeah. Yeah, very good, practical question too. Anyone else? Yes.
Why do we need to serve the monks?
Oh, well, you don't have to serve the monks. I'll be very clear with that. You don't have to serve us. Okay? Why do people like to serve the monks? Right? Why do people like why do your parents like to serve the monks? Right? I think that's a good question to ask. Why? Out of respect, I think is one thing. They respect the monks a lot. Monks are doing a lot of work, a lot of service. I know Bante is doing a lot of service for this community. All the temples during this Vasa season are very busy. We're doing so much. We work so hard. So I think a lot of the people serve the monks because they're like, oh, Hamdu's a little tired. They got so many things to do. Let's do something nice for them. But back to the very pragmatic aspect of it. Did you notice that we're not allowed to cook? Did you know the monks we don't cook our food? Yeah, we don't cook. Yeah. Also, we don't go buy food. You know that? We don't go buy our food. Also, we don't grow our own food. So if people don't serve us, how will we survive, right? If I can't grow it, if I can't buy it, if I can't cook it, then I'm just going to starve to death, right? So people, they care about us. They don't want me to become skinny and famished, malnourished, and to wither away and die. So they come. Now the opposite happens. Now we're getting fat, So maybe we need to be a little careful what we bring to the temple. Diabetes in Thailand with the monks, diabetes in Sri Lanka with the monks. It's an actual big problem in Buddhism now. Because also the food's like highly processed and has all these extra things in it. We should maybe eat rice and gotu-kola and other more like healthier foods. Vegetables, I need to practice what I preach. I need to eat more vegetables. I'm not that good at it myself. But they serve the monks because they care, I think, because they appreciate what the monks do, but also to help the monks survive and not be hungry for the rest of the day. Yeah, don't ever feel pressured. You only do it if you want to do it, okay? I know sometimes there might be peer pressure from the community, but for me, I want to receive food that people feel like there's a lot of love in it, That's the best food for me. If there's not love in it, then don't give it to me. I would prefer not to. I don't want you to give me angry food. That's not a nice thing to have. Anyone else? I'm loving these questions. A lot of times when I ask this, people will ask very serious questions, very deep questions about, things, Abhidhamma and these kind of things. And I'm like, okay, but how is that going to help you in your everyday life? And these are things that are very practical, that you can use. It provides a lot of clarity why we do things. Anyone else? Maybe some adults now too, if the kids are already kind of asked all their questions. Yes?
Why did Buddhism split into Theravada and Theravada?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So there's a prevailing theory, right? None of us were there, or if we were there, we don't remember that life, There was a dispute about the rules, right? So this is before even Theravada Buddhism existed. At that time, there was only the Buddhasasana. There was no labels, right? Only Buddhasasana. Supposedly there was two groups, right? One group wanted to change the rules, the other group wanted to stay with the same rules. So the Buddha said that we can solve any problems in the Sangha by taking a vote. So Buddhism is very democratic. Everything's done by votes. Because when the Buddha passed away, he didn't assign any one leader. He said, let the Dhamma be your teacher, right? Now that the Buddha's not there. And the last 7 of the 227 precepts that the Buddha gave were designed in order for the monks to solve problems. When there's any disputes, the last 7 precepts are not actual precepts, but they're ways for the Sangha to solve problems. So they used those rules that the Buddha gave to solve the problem. But the people who didn't want to follow the rules, they won. There was more people who wanted to not to follow the rules, or they wanted to change them a little bit, right? And those, according to scholars, we call them the Mahasangikas. And the ones who didn't want to change the rules, they call the Straviras. Stravira means the same thing as Tera. You know, Theravada, Stravira means the same thing. But then, even within the Stravira group, those groups split into more schools too. Because they separated through India, right? All different places. So each one adapted to the culture, to that place, and they weren't in communication. So then they started having like little disagreements. But Emperor Ashoka, when he sent his daughter and his son to Sri Lanka, he sent one of the schools of the Straviras called the Abhyajavada. The Abhyajavadins were the ones who came to Sri Lanka, and they're the ones who we now call Theravada. Right? But that name didn't exist in the past. That's something that we use now, right? So that's kind of the process why they split up and why in Sri Lanka, we go by Theravada Buddhism now. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of details there. I made it like very, very basic. I'm not doing it justice. But that's something you can ask ChatGPT to, give you all the details. But that's the gist of it, yeah. Yeah, you learned something about history too. I don't think most of you knew that, right? Maybe you had some idea of it. Anyone else? During the time of the Buddha, every time the Buddha would finish giving a Dhamma talk, or any of the monks would finish giving a Dhamma talk, but mostly the Buddha, he would say, "Is there any questions? Please, if you have a doubt, if there's any doubts, please ask." All the monks are quiet, all the people are quiet. Then the Buddha says, "If you feel too shy to ask a question, tell the person next to you, tell your friend, and they'll ask it for you." Right? Everyone will still stay quiet. No one would say anything. Then they would all leave, right? And then you have a question, right? And you're in doubt, so then you go home and you go to your dad. You go to your mom. "Mom, Dad, I didn't understand what that monk was saying." Right? So this would happen. The monk would go to another monk and he would say, "You know what? What the Buddha said, I didn't understand what he was saying." You know what that monk was saying? You had the Buddha right in front of you. How can you be so foolish? You had the opportunity to answer your question. And you come to me? I'm not the Buddha. How can I answer you? Then the person would go, "Oh, please, 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 pretty please." And then the monk would answer, But the Buddha and the monk would always be in agreement. If you have a question, ask it. Right? Just like in school, what did he tell you? There's no dumb questions, right? The only foolish or dumb thing that you can do is not find clarity. One of the most intelligent thing you can do is to ask a question. To me, intelligence is really about solving problems. It's not about memorization. It's not about getting good grades. Intelligence is all about solving problems. Whether they're math problems, whether they're social problems, environmental problems, our ability to solve problems, like having doubt, right? To come out of confusion is a sign of intelligence. But to stay in confusion, to stay in doubt, is a sign of delusion. That's what it is, right? Because you're staying in that obscure state. You don't know what's going on. So we want to come out of delusion and come into understanding. We want to go from avidya to vidya, right? From ignorance to knowledge, right? Ignorance, not knowing, is the source of our dukkha. We know that, right? Those of you adults. Because of avidya, we get dukkha, because we don't know. So if we want to get rid of dukkha, then we need knowledge. We need vidya. Right? So through the power of understanding, through the power of examination, investigation, discernment, we can come out of our suffering. But if we don't ever analyze, if we don't ever experiment, investigate, then we stay the same way that we are. So that always motivated me to ask questions, All the monks, I always ask questions all the time. If I have a doubt, I ask. I want clarity. I don't want to remain without knowledge. Yeah. I hope that's a little motivation for you to ask a question. If not today, some other day. In the back? No one this time? In the back? Hiding in the back of the hall? Yeah, I remember last time there was one man, an American man who came with his wife, I think. He asked a question about the elephants, right? Like, oh, why do we put the datu? Why do we put the datu on the elephant's back? I got to see that 2 times when I was in Sri Lanka in 2018. I got to see that, the elephants, how they cover the elephants very nicely. And they put the datu on the back. That's very nice. Anyone else? No? Okay. I have some time. Maybe I can share some more Dhamma with you. There's this beautiful story. Do you know who Samavati and Magandiya are? Do you know these 2 young ladies? Do you know who Samavati is? Or Magandiya? No? I think maybe the people who went to Dhamma school in Sri Lanka know. Right? So there was these 2 beautiful, smart young ladies during the time of the Buddha. One of them was so beautiful that her father would only let her marry the best man in the world. And he wouldn't even let his daughter marry the king because the king and all the other people there were not good enough. But one day he was walking through the forest and he saw that perfect man. But it was the Buddha. And he came to the Buddha and he says, "You're the person I've been looking for. You are the perfect person for my daughter, the most beautiful girl in the entire kingdom, if not the world. I'll come back later. You stay here, don't move," right? He went to go get his daughter. He brought his wife, showed it to the Buddha, right? Buddha said, "No. No, thank you." He's actually very funny. He said, I wouldn't touch that carcass even with my toe, my big toe on my foot. When he said this, that young lady's father and mother, they understood. Asubha Nusati. They understood. And they got some knowledge, right? And after that, they became followers of the Buddha. But the very beautiful young girl, you know what? She was very conceited. She was very vain. She thought she was the hottest thing in the world. She got upset because they compared her to a carcass. A skin bag full of feces and urine. That's what it said. She got very upset. She says, "Everyone loves me. Everyone thinks I'm the most beautiful. But this person here, I can't believe they insulted me like that." So even though her parents became Buddhist, she didn't. And she held a grudge. And she took this grudge all the way until she eventually ended up marrying the king. She married the king because besides the Buddha, no one else was good enough, only the king. So she married him. And many of the people in the castle were followers of the Buddha. So she would always make their lives miserable. Anyone who followed the Buddha, they were her enemy too. But there was another girl, a very nice girl. And she was the daughter of the treasurer of a neighboring kingdom, right? Another kingdom, another country next door. But in that country, there was a big disaster, like a famine and a plague. And everyone was escaping, a bunch of refugees leaving that country and going into another country. So this young girl with her parents, even though they came from like the top nobility living in the castle, they had to leave. And that treasurer was friends with the treasurer of the king that other girl married. Are you following? Remember the first girl married the king? That king also had a treasurer, right? The person who was in charge of the money. And he was friends with the other girl's father, who was also a treasurer, but for the other kingdom. So he thought, I'll go with my friend, and he'll help us, because that's what friends do. So they were going there. And right before they got to the kingdom, you know, the parents, they felt a little tired. They're like, let's rest here. But they told their daughter, you go into the town and try to get us some food. So the daughter goes into the town, and luckily enough, there's like a soup kitchen, we would say nowadays, right? A soup kitchen means where like mostly homeless people or other people can go get food. So she went in there, and it was crazy, right? It was like a barn when you try to feed the animals. Everyone's going crazy, very difficult. Finally, she got to the front of the line, and the man working there said, how much food do you want? She said, give me 3 plates. The man was confused, right? It's like seeing like one of you girls, very thin, very small, like this girl's gonna eat 3 plates, like what's going on here, right? He thought, oh, this girl's she's greedy. She doesn't know what she wants, but it's her first time. I'll give it to her. She gets the 3 plates, she leaves, she goes to give her parents the food. They all eat. But that night, her father gets very sick. The next morning, he doesn't wake up, he dies. The mother's still too tired to go and walk all the way into the town. So she tells her daughter, go into the town again and go get more food. The daughter goes into the town, goes back into the soup kitchen again. It's like a zoo, it's chaos, like a circus in there. Finally makes it to the front. The man sees her, he goes, oh, this comes this greedy girl again. Let's see what she wants. But this time she says, I want 2 plates. And the worker goes, okay, she's learning. Yeah? This little tiny girl can't eat all this food. Okay, here's 2 plates. Go, get out of here. She goes back, her and her mom eat. That night, her mom gets really sick. Next morning, she dies. So her mom's gone too. She has no one. So she just goes back to the soup kitchen the next day after her mom passed away. Again, she tries to go in there and it's crazy. It's always so hard for her to get to the front. It takes a long time. But she finally makes it to the front of the line. And once she makes it there, the person sees her again, right? Oh, here she comes, that girl, that greedy girl who wants to eat more than she can fit in her body. The girl this time says, I want 1 plate. So now the worker feels very confident. I see now you finally learned. She's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, the first day you came, you little girl wanted to eat 3 plates. Yesterday when you came, you ate 2, and now finally you learned that, you can only eat 1. She's like, oh, no. You misunderstood me. I'm not greedy. It's not that I wanted to eat all this food. It was for my parents. I only see you. Who are these parents? He goes, well, the first day I came to get food for my mom and dad. My dad passed away. Yesterday I came to get food for myself and my mother. She passed away. Today it's only me. Then he feels very bad, right? Imagine you're like criticizing someone, they tell you their parents died. You're going to feel really bad. He feels really bad. He goes, you know what? You can come and work here. I'll take you as my daughter. So she starts working there. But she notices that it's all chaos, right? She's a very smart girl. Her father was the treasurer. They lived in the castle. She goes, you know what? I can fix this place. I can organize it. So she tells her new stepdad, her new adopted father, you know what? I see everyone coming crazy. Let me organize it. You can't handle these people. They're crazy. Let's just give them food. Don't worry about it. No, give me a chance. And she really advocates, she really pushes. Please, let me fix this. He goes, finally he gives in. Many dads give in to their daughters eventually, right? So he gives in, he goes, okay, try it out. She does it, very successful. In a short time, she gets everyone to come in a nice straight line. He's surprised. But guess what? The king, every morning when he would wake up, he would go out to the edge of the castle, and he would hear all the people gathering to get food. And it would make him happy, right? Oh, so many refugees, so many poor people, hungry people. I'm feeding them. It makes me feel so good. I'm giving Dane. I feel so good. But then he noticed that no more sound. Where are the people? So he went down there to investigate, right? What's going on? Maybe the people in the soup kitchen are stealing all the food, keeping it for themselves, right? They're being corrupt. But he goes down there, and he sees, to his surprise, everyone very nicely organized. And then he asks the person who works there, who organized this? Before it used to be chaos. It was my daughter. The king goes, I didn't know you had a daughter. Where did this daughter come from? Oh, she's right here. And then she's already like, your age. She's like, what? Like, it can't be that your daughter, from one day to another became 13 or 14 or 15 years old. He goes, oh no, actually, she's a refugee, and her parents passed away. And he goes, well, you know what? I'd like to take her to my castle and marry her. But he didn't want to do that. He really loved this smart young daughter that he had. But as you know, it's very difficult to say no to a king. So eventually, she ended up getting married to the king. The king put that worker in a very difficult situation. But that king, in those days, they were a little naughty. He had many wives. Guess what? Guess who the other wife was? The other woman, right, that didn't like the Buddha. And this new wife, guess who her spiritual teacher was? Guess what her religion was? Buddhism. So as soon as she came to the castle and she heard that this young lady was Buddhist, she didn't like her. She did not like her. And because she was there first, I'm the senior wife, right? You're the junior. Definitely didn't like her. So after some time, she thought about, I need to come up with a plan. I need to get rid of this girl. Because she's a Buddhist, she's younger than me, the king likes her a lot, I need to get rid of her. So she started coming up with like ideas. And then one day she went to go, the senior queen went to go visit this nice new queen, this nice young lady. And she noticed that every time that the Buddha would come and visit the castle, visit the king, that the queen and all her attendants would like go look, right? Where's the Buddha? Where's the Buddha? Where's the Buddha? And she says, oh, this is a great opportunity for me now that I see her do this. I'm going to tell the king that his wife loves the Buddha more than she loves the king. Right? So she goes to tell that, oh, you know what? Your new wife, that Buddhist one, she loves the Buddha more than you. He's like, whatever, I don't believe you, you know? You're crazy. No. You should go see next time the Buddha comes. You should see what they do. So the king, like, okay, I'll just do it. Stop annoying me. So next time the Buddha comes, he goes, and he does see that the queen and all her servants start looking for the Buddha, and they bow. And he's a little suspicious. And then the older wife keeps bothering him, and he wants to keep her quiet. He's like, okay, close up all the windows, close up everything. That way they don't get to see the Buddha when he comes, and I don't have to deal with this problem of this person bothering me. But, the Buddhist people, the Buddhist queen, really wanted to see the Buddha. So eventually there was like a little hole in the wall. And when the Buddha would come, she would see the Buddha through that hole. But the evil queen, she saw that. And she told the king, even though you told them not to look, even though you blocked it, they're still doing it. You see, she really is in love with the Buddha and not with you. And the king saw this. And he's like, it's true, right? He felt very jealous, even though he had no reason to be jealous. So he blocked that. But, the queen was still there. So it didn't solve her problem. So then she needed to come up with another way. She's like, I need to find another answer. So she started doing all kinds of tricks. I'll make the story short. All kinds of tricks. The final trick, this is like the worst one. The first rule we should never do, right? Planatipatan. We shouldn't kill. She came up with a plan to do an assassination attempt. Fake an assassination attempt. Right? Fake trying to kill the king. By putting a snake, a venomous snake, inside of one of the king's instruments. And once he would play it, the snake would come out. She would jump in and save him, right? And blame it on the queen. So she got that instrument, she gave it to the Buddhist queen, and she says, oh, you know what, this instrument, take care of it. So they cleaned it, they put it away. As soon as they finished cleaning it and put it away, she put the snake. She put the snake in the instrument. So then when the king went to go get it out, the snake came out, tried to bite the king. Guess who was there? The evil queen. She saved the king. Oh, I came to save you, I'm the hero. Although she was the one who set it up. And then the queen goes, I wonder who did this, I wonder who did this. Who was the last person to have it? The Buddhist queen, right? She was the one. She was the one to have it. And then everyone in the castle started saying, you see, she is trying to kill you. She does love the Buddha. So many rumors happened. The king wasn't sure, because anyone could put it in there. But there was so many rumors, he felt like he didn't have a choice. So he says, okay, we're going to do a test. We're going to do a purity test. In those days, there was a lot of purity tests. So they said, bring everyone. Everyone in the castle came. They got the Buddhist queen there. The king got an arrow. He says, if she's innocent, when I fire this arrow, bow and arrow, it will not hit her. If she's guilty, right, that means the arrow will hit her and then she'll die. So the king gets the bow and arrow, right? He pulls it. He's unsure. It's like he doesn't really want to do it. He lets it go, and the arrow stops right in front of her and falls. Right? It doesn't hit her. And it turns out that she's not the one who did it, and everyone believes it. But there's still the question: who actually did it? Right? Who actually did it? No one wants to find out yet. But then the Buddhist queen and all her servants went back to their place, and the evil queen got so desperate now. Right? I'm gonna have to get rid of her myself. So she got some of her family members together, and at nighttime, they went and they started a fire. And since the king had closed off everything, remember I told you the king closed all the windows, all the doors, everything was closed. the fire came and started burning and they had no way to escape. And then the Buddhist queen and all her servants, since they were practitioners of the Dhamma, they were Buddhists, they started practicing meditation. They started practicing actually Brahma Vihara, Metta Karuna Mudita Upekkha. And because they were practicing meditation there, they all reached one level of enlightenment. You know, some of them became Sotapanna, some of them became Sakadagamis, Anagamis, and they didn't feel any pain when they were on fire, and you know, they went to these higher levels of awakening. But the king, what? He didn't like his castle being burned down, part of it, right? He didn't like losing his queen to a fire. He didn't like losing all his servants and not knowing who did it, right? It felt like an attack. Someone's attacking me again, first with the snake, and now they burned down my queen's house. What am I gonna do? So the king's very smart. He tells everyone, you know what? I'm happy that they burned the queen's house down. She was always causing me problems. The snake, looking at the Buddha, doing all these things. She didn't get along with my other queen. I wish, the king goes, I wish I knew who did it. If I only knew who did it, I would give them a reward. I would give them a lot of treasure, even for their family members, because they did me such a big favor getting rid of that annoying queen. So then the evil queen thinks to herself, all right, now's the time. I'm going to let them know that I did it. So the next day she gets all her family members. They go to the king and they say, Your Majesty, it was me. I did it, my friends, you know. We wanted to help you because that queen, she was so annoying. You're right. It's a good thing that we got rid of her. When they do that, all the soldiers come out. He's like, actually, no. You know, she was very nice. You did such a wrong thing. So then the king had her and all her family members assassinated. And they all died. Why? Because of her pride. She held that animosity towards the Buddha and towards all Buddhists, right? Not only the person who did something wrong, but to everyone who follows them, right? So imagine you go outside right now and you're driving and a white American person hits your car. And then from that day forward you go, I don't like any white American person, they're all bad. That's a very crazy way of thinking, right? If you want to blame one person, that's maybe I understand it, right? Maybe if she was upset with the Buddha, you can maybe empathize with her. But to blame everyone for that, it's crazy. It's a crazy way to think. People do that nowadays. It's called racism, prejudice, bigotry. People do that. So she had that type of mind. And she was also jealous of the younger girl who became the queen. So we need to be very careful what we think, right? Young ladies, be very careful. Who do you want to be in these two stories, right? Usually in Buddhism, we talk about the Buddha, the Arahants, like Venerable Arahant Sariputta, or Venerable Arahant Mahamoggallana, Venerable Arahant Upali, all these Arahants, right? We talk about all the monks. So many men. Very few times we have stories about women. This is one of the few stories we have about women and two young girls, right? So you can imagine this maybe like, you know, like some teen drama, TV, like Korean drama going on, like that, if it helps you. And but there is these stories. Your representative Buddhism it isn't only about men. There's a lot of stories about women and young girls, not as much as men and monks, but there is there. And I think I wanted to share that with you, for you to know that, you know, whatever you're going through, during the time of the Buddha, there was also young girls like you who are going through a lot of the same issues that you are. And the teachings of the Buddha helped that one young lady, and the one who didn't follow it went into a very bad situation, right? So just an example I wanted to share with you before I end today. Yes, is there maybe one last question before we finish? I know time has run out, but anyone, any last question? No? Forever hold your peace, like at the end of a wedding? Okay, you were forever. You can always find me online. Actually, I want to share that with you. If you look at my name on the flyer that was sent out, Sanatha Vihari, you can go to sanathavihari.com, and then from there you can go to my Instagram, you can go to my Facebook, you can go to my YouTube channel, you can email me. There's so many ways you can get in contact with me. So if you want to talk to me more, or you want to learn more about the way that I share the Dhamma, then you can just go to my website, sanathavihari.com.